700,046.
It's the best way to explain it is that, like, within this grid, right, we talked about this yesterday, whether it equals 0, whether it equals 1, whether it equals +1, +2, whatever, that within this we have degrees of freedom, right? And then within this, we understand that this degrees of freedom doesn't just equal, right, negative 0 or +1 or -1 or +1 or +2, right? That we can at least understand that from that metric of math, that we're able to scale through measurements of degrees of freedom, that we can assume that this involvement incorporates to a math scale, right? And in which that we can go to, instead of being like 4D math, 5D math, 6D math when we're factoring, we can interpret that to a maximum. It's like pi, right? You use like 3.14, but we could use 3.14159265358 if we really fucking wanted, right? Like, they both determine the same answer, right?
When you actually do the calculation, but something about lots of universes.
Yeah. So when I was a graduate student way back in the 1980s, long before you were born, and I began to work on string theory, the aspect that caught my attention was its need for these extra dimensions of space. And briefly, when you study the math of string theory, there's an equation, and the equation cannot be solved if there aren't these extra dimensions of space.
Of course, because, like, we have a closed space, and we can measure within this space. Now, within this space, for example, we can say that this section here is like a saddle, like a horse saddle, right? And this equals 1, for example. We're just going to fucking throw random numbers out, right? Don't get too hyped up. It's completely irrelevant from the actual math we're doing here so far, right? Now, from this section, we understand that within this degrees of freedom, that these are all different geometries, right? Now, within this geometry, right, that is in factor, we need to be able to scale this, right? We can measure this and measure this, but why aren't we measuring from here to here, right? Like, that's where we kind of look at that a bit.
Okay, so that's where the idea does come from. And when I was a graduate student, people began to think about what those extra dimensions of space might look like. The idea is that they're very small, they're crumpled, they're all around us, but they're so tiny that we can't directly see them the way we can directly see